Get ready for the most thought-provoking show on the web. The Cipher Voice, every Monday at 6:30 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday at 8 p.m. on the We Believe Digital Podcast and Roku TV. We tackle the big topics, and we have a solution for our community. Tune in to the We Believe Digital Podcast. Also, follow on all social media. Let's make a difference together.
Hey man, welcome tonight to another one of the most thought-provoking shows on the web. You are locked into the Cipher Voice live tonight from the We Believe Digital Podcast studio, man. Tonight's show is brought to you by earthblendcoffee.co, black-owned, roasted right here in Jackson, Mississippi. It's just great coffee. The link is in the Facebook description box. Click on the link and support our sponsor, earthblendcoffee.co. Also, our sponsor and underwriter tonight is Soil Fragrance Candles. That's right. www.solfragrance.com. That's right. Find the best vegan soy-made candles in the whole entire land at www.solfragrance.com. And also tonight, Next Level Real Estate LLC, Rashada Moore, Candace Brown Lofton, Shadow Robinson, all they do is specialize in closing. Give those ladies a call. They're located at 5350 Executive Place Parkway here in the capital city of Jackson, Mississippi. Listen, tonight's show, man, we have an exclusive interview with a mother, an activist, a community leader, just a great person. She has her own personal story about gun violence. Miss Felecia Marshall, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Man,
super excited about being here.
Well, we're super excited about you being here. We're super excited that we have the CEO of Grant Me Justice in the building. And hey, man, listen, tonight is all about you. It's all about you getting your message out, telling your story. We have seen a spike in gun violence in the African American community. People dying day in and day out. We see the criminal justice system letting criminals out with light sentences and things like that. And so I just kind of want you to introduce yourself tonight and kind of give us a little synopsis on who you are and what's your story.
My name is Felecia Marshall. I am originally from Prentiss, Mississippi, which is about 65 miles south of Jackson.
Okay.
I've been in Jackson all of my adult life. Actually grew up on Fair Street.
Wow.
During the 70s. And
historical.
So, yes.
All right.
And so I've been in Jackson all of my life, my adult life, and I lost my daughter on March 14, 2017.
Now, was that in Jackson?
In Jackson.
In Jackson. And how old was she at the time?
She was 23 at the time.
Wow.
She was the 14th murder
of that year.
Of that year.
Wow. So right out the gate.
Yes, she was the 14th murder. She was actually killed with the AK-47. There were 3 people that were actually convicted for her murder.
Wow.
And just let me give you a brief look into what that looks like, because, you know, if you've never lost a child, a lot of people just think that's just something that's just in passing.
Right.
But it absolutely knocks you off of your feet.
Right.
Death itself is overwhelming. But when it's your child, and a child is gunned down in this way, it's a whole level of overwhelming.
Now, had she graduated? Was she in college? Can you tell us, are you comfortable with, tell us a little bit about your daughter.
My daughter's name, we called her Lexi B. Her real name was Alexia Buckhalter. She had graduated high school. She had spent some time in community college. Okay. She loved basketball. She was a basketball player. So she played basketball, and she also played the drums. So she wasn't in college at the time. She was just, and to be honest, she was one of those kids that struggled. She struggled her entire life. Okay. And she was, at the time, she was not living with me. She had lived with me for a few months, and then she had started living with friends. Okay. But a matter of fact, just like all of the murders that you see, She was killed by someone that she knew.
Wow. So these 3 gentlemen that
Well, it was a female and 2 gentlemen.
Okay, so a female and 2 gentlemen
Yes.
that are accused and have been tried, and we'll get to that. And part of her, these were associates of hers.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of tell me about that night. What do you know so far about that night and what happened?
Well, actually, it occurred during the day.
Daytime, okay.
It was like 10:30 in the morning is
Wow.
when it happened. To be honest, my daughter was in a relationship with the female.
Okay.
And she was trying to get away from her because she was in a domestic violence situation.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So she was in a relationship with this
Female.
with a female, and this domestic relationship became violent, and your daughter knew that this is something I need to get out of. Okay.
Yes.
And she sought to do that, and this female, along with 2 other males, sought to prevent her from getting out of that relationship.
Well, actually, it didn't happen that way. So she was trying to get away from the female, and this had occurred all of the weekend. This was a Tuesday when she was actually killed. So my daughter had been trying to get away from her. She had followed her to a friend's house, and she had the guy there told. I don't want to call their names.
Yeah, that's fine. You're fine.
Told her, the defendant told her to leave his house and don't come back. She left and
Told
went.
your daughter that.
No, told
the female
the
that.
female that.
Okay.
The female left and go get 2 of her cousins to come back. And they came back and did a drive-by and shot the house.
So they shot the house up,
My daughter was the only one that was hit.
and your daughter was here.
But there were several people in the house.
So they had no regards for anybody in the house.
No.
All because somebody didn't want to be with you.
Yes.
All these defendants are African American.
Yes.
All right. When knowing that and losing a child like that, kind of explain this listening audience. What does it do, especially in those violent terms? What did you feel at that initial moment? Outside, and I know you feel hurt, and you're still hurt. But what does it do to your psyche?
Well, to be honest, initially when it happened, the first report was that there was a female that was shot in the arm. So I was thinking that it wasn't anything major. I thought it was, she had gotten shot in the arm, and this was going to be something that she could recover from. And after going through the news media and trying to get details, then I found out that there was a female that was actually killed at the scene. Once I heard the names of the people involved, I knew it was my daughter.
Okay, so at the beginning, the information was scattered. It wasn't, you couldn't verify anything.
No.
Now let me ask you this, and we'll get into this within this interview. Your initial contact with law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
How was it?
So I arrived at the scene, and there's crime tape everywhere. It was really cool that day. I remember it being really cool, and I remember all of the yellow tape.
Right.
They would not allow me to get to the scene.
Okay.
And so there was a young lady that was coming. She was the mother of the person that the house. And she came and she said that, she asked me if I was her mother, and I was like, yes. And she just dropped her head. And so when she dropped her head, I knew that Alexia was gone. It took a long time. It seemed like a long time for anybody to come to me and try to identify who my child was. They came and asked me to provide photos of her, and I knew that, you're shaking, you're nervous, you've just
right.
You don't know.
This terrible news. You're all over the place.
Yes, and they're asking for photos, and I'm trying to go through my phone and find photos, and Alexia wasn't one to always take photos. And so I went through my phone, and Alexia was, sometimes she would have her hair short like mine, and sometimes it would be long, and so all of the photos that I had in my phone were long hair.
Right.
So when I found the first photo, the detective said, no, that's not the person that we have in there.
So now this is another emotional ride.
Yes, this is not the person. So I had to go back through my phone again. I couldn't find the phone, couldn't find another photo. And then I remembered that Alexia had my name tattooed on her arm.
Wow.
And I told them, I said, my baby has my name tattooed on her arm. And they dropped their head and said, ma'am, we'll be right back. And so it seems like forever. I'm sure it didn't take that long.
Right.
But they go back and then they come back with the statement, the detective, that your child is deceased, and we're going to do everything we can to bring the people responsible for this to justice, and then they just leave. I mean, you just left with this in your hand.
A card, a blue card.
They gave me a card.
Yeah.
And as we were leaving, we were being chased by a vehicle. We're like, what in the world? It was the funeral home. The funeral home chased us down because they knew that there were funds available if your child dies in a violent way.
Through the
State of Mississippi.
State of Mississippi.
And they chased us down at the scene.
Because they wanted you to use their services so that they could secure that funding.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, man. So your initial contact with law enforcement, would you rate it, and as you begin to move through the process, okay, so after the death and after this horrible night, I'm sure, because I know your demeanor, you begin to ask questions.
Yes, well, because it was a crime, then her body had to go to the crime lab.
Right.
And so it took days for them to release her body.
About how many? Because that was 2017.
Yeah, that was 2017.
It's 2021 now, and it's even worse today.
Her body was released on that Friday.
Okay.
And we had her funeral on that Monday.
Okay, so you did good from a Tuesday to a Friday. Now bodies are 30 days, 27 days. I mean, it's crazy, and that's a whole nother topic. But so you got the body, you had the funeral. Had an arrest been made prior to the funeral?
Yes.
Okay.
They fled the scene initially, but they arrested everybody that was involved. But we never knew, like a bond hearing, never
made aware of that.
Never made aware of a bond hearing.
Never had a chance in the initial
Absolutely not.
Initial appearance to give a victim impact statement or any of that.
None of that.
And those can be given at the beginning and at the end. I found that out, that the law requires that even in a violent crime case, that victims, parents, or loved ones have a right to give an impact statement at a bond hearing. And we're not seeing that in this city. It's like we're not using the law like the law ought to be used. And we're going to get in that in our second segment. So arrest is made. You have Lexi's funeral, and now you're grieving. You're angry. What now bursts something in you like, grant me justice?
Well, the whole process of the judicial system, because you go in it. For me, I had never been arrested. I've never been to jail. The court system
just is amazing.
I didn't know anything.
Didn't know anything about it. And don't feel bad. Most people don't. They're behooved to how it operates.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was going into it as if the state of Mississippi was representing me.
Was really for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I found out that the state of Mississippi is for the state of Mississippi.
Wow.
And what I learned through the process is that we don't really have a criminal justice system. We have a criminal legal system, but we don't have a criminal justice system. And through this whole process, Grant Me Justice was birthed because of my experience. It took 3 years, and a lot occurred in those 3 years. But it took 3 years for me to matriculate through the system. And because of my experience, that's where Grant Me Justice came from. Because if you think about it, what really got me was, as I'm going through the system, trying to get justice for my child, I'm looking at the other side of the table, and there's a mother that's trying to get justice for her child too.
Hold that thought. Listen, man, you're locked into the Cipher Voice right here live from We Believe Digital Podcast Studio. Exclusive interview with Miss Felecia Marshall and Grant Me Justice, CEO. We're going to be right back after this station ID break. Tonight's show is sponsored to you by earthblendcoffee.co. It's just great coffee. Click on the link and support our sponsor, earthblendcoffee.co.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome to the Adventurous Podcast. I'm your host, Deidre Perry, and these are my co-hosts. And weekly, we will be coming to you to bring you the latest information in the world of agriculture. We invite you to join us every Saturday from 10 to 10:30. Join us. Come on, take an adventure.
Hey man, we are back tonight with this exclusive interview with the CEO of Grant Me Justice, Miss Felecia Marshall. So Miss Marshall, right before the break, you were telling us about how you thought that the state of Mississippi was working. They were advocating for you. You went in with good expectations. Mm-hmm. You know, my child's been brutally murdered. I know that the state is going to seek justice on behalf of my child. Mm-hmm. But as you begin to matriculate through the system, you saw something different.
Yes, it was totally different. And I didn't realize it until maybe the second one. Because, the first thing was I was never contacted when the first person went for a plea deal. Someone in the community called me.
So wait a minute. So not only were you not contacted at the initial bond hearing, this person had been offered a plea, and you still hadn't been contacted. Who was the DA at the time?
The district attorney. Smith was going out.
Okay.
He was having some issues, and he was going out at the time.
He was going out.
But he was still in office.
So it was still his office.
Still his office.
All right. Mm-hmm. And so any deal that had been brokered, he had to sign off on it, Robert Schuler Smith.
Absolutely.
All right. So your child has been murdered. There's 3 suspects. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to call a name. Who do we know was the shooter? Was it the female, or was it one of her male cousins?
Well, that's still up in the air.
That's still up in the air.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That has never been identified to this day.
No. Well, they said he was the shooter, but he told me that he's not. And I believe him.
Wow. So you spoke with one of the individuals that's accused. Did he apologize? Or?
Yes, he did. And he told, I want to kind of go in order if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was never contacted. Mm-hmm. And so defendant 1, who was the female, mm-hmm. she was the one that did the plea first.
Okay.
And her plea was based on the fact that she was to testify against the other 2. Mm. So if normal people would think, well, there's going to be 2 more trials. Mm-hmm. She has a plea, mm-hmm. And there's going to be two more trials. 2 more trials, sorry. But that's not what occurred. So I went to one of my family members called and said that there was going to be a plea hearing and that I needed to get down to the courtroom ASAP. I jumped up, left my job, and went down to the courtroom. And when I got there, first of all, no one had Alexia's name spelled correctly.
What?
All of her information her address was incorrect. It was just a number of...
So the Hinds County DA office that's prosecuting the case, that's offering a plea deal, don't have any of the right information, don't have the right address about the victim.
About the victim.
Okay, as bad as it already is for you, not being notified about a bond, not being notified about a plea deal, to add insult to injury, you've misspelled my daughter's name. So it's really like my daughter's not even being represented here.
Right, not at all. And as a mother, it broke my heart because I felt like I was in the way. I felt like that I was making a ruckus, and that's how they made me feel, was that I was
because it's almost like they're trying to sweep something under the rug, hurry up, get it over with.
Yeah. And so we went through the first plea. They gave me an opportunity to say something. If I had known that I would have an opportunity to say something, I probably would have prepared something.
Not only did you have an opportunity to say something, Ms. Marsha, you have an opportunity to reject the plea.
No.
Huh? You mean to tell me they didn't ask you, is the plea okay with you? No. See, that's a whole nother ballgame. Families of victims have a right to tell the DA, because he's an elected official, I don't want that plea on the table. I want you to try this case. All right? That they have a right to come to you and say, well, we're offering him or her X amount of years. Is that okay with you? And you have a right to say yes or no. You weren't given that opportunity?
I was told that I didn't have a right to say yes or no. I was told that the victims, it's not up to the victims, that I did not have a right to rebut any plea that was offered. That's what I was told.
And so you get down there to the hearing.
And so the first judge that I went before was Judge Faye Peterson, and Judge Faye Peterson had just got into office at the time.
So it just became circuit judge. Okay.
And so the first defendant went before her.
This is the female.
The female.
Okay.
And when they're reading everything, they will tell you that the judge has the right to reject the plea.
That's right.
And so when I went before the judge and I'm explaining to her that my child was gunned down with an AK-47, and I don't think that was enough time that was given for her, it's just like you're just making statements. It doesn't affect the judges at all. And all three, I made statements in all three, and the judges accepted all three pleas.
Disregarded your
Absolutely.
statement.
Absolutely.
So.
And you're not just from me, because this is the first time I've seen these people that are responsible for killing my child. And the first one, when she went before the judge, she has to make a statement about what happened. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that she said was, if I can exchange my life for hers, I would. Right? Mm-hmm. So to me, that says, well, okay, why are we here? If you're willing to exchange your life for hers, then why are we pleading? Why are you being given the ability to plead if you're willing to exchange your life for hers?
Right.
So, of course, that didn't matter. And, I'm wailing. At this particular time, I'm wailing.
Right.
Because I'm seeing her for the first time. I'm hearing details of the murder that I was
had no clue about. Right,
I had no clue about what happened, and some of the details I had no clue. But I was able to go before the judge, and they granted her plea, and her plea was for 20 years. She was with 5 years suspended.
So explanation of why the 5 years are suspended?
No explanation for that. And she was to testify against the other two. So this was my hope. My hope was, if she was given the opportunity to testify against the other two, that she would most definitely perjure herself. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was banking on. If she would perjure herself, then she would have to serve the entire term. Mm-hmm. But she was never given the opportunity to
testify.
To go to
because
trial.
The other two pleaded as well.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. So did they ever after their initial arrest, were any of them out on bond, or did they remain incarcerated?
Everybody remained incarcerated.
Okay, so nobody received bonds.
No. Okay. The one that was the perceived or said that he was the shooter. His bond was at $1 million.
Okay.
Now
those bonds were set by Judge Peterson, or
I have no idea who they were set by.
Okay, so from the time they were arrested, they've never been back on the street.
No.
Well, that's the only good thing about it. Okay, so first defendant, the young lady, she pleads out for 20 years, 5 years suspended.
And credit for time served.
And that's why I was going there with that. So if she's been in jail, and when did she go to trial? What year was this?
She went to trial a year later, which was 2018.
So credit for time served, she got a year. When she'll get a day for day. So she sat in jail a year. So she really got 2 years. So she got credit for time served. So she got 2 on the 15. That she's already done. And at 85%, she'll do another 9. So 11 years tops
For my baby's
for
life.
your baby's death.
Yes.
Wow. Whew. That's deep. What about the other 2? What about
the
that?
second one that went to trial was the shooter.
Was the alleged shooter?
The alleged shooter.
Okay.
And he pled. They gave him 15 years to serve.
15.
15
Wait
years.
a minute now. Wait a minute. Hold on now, Miss Marsha. So the girl who went and got the cousins, who all of this started with, she gets 20, 5 suspended, 15 to serve, credit for time served that would have gave her a year in the county jail, and they give her a day, just where she gets a day for day. So she really got 2 years of credit time served for being in the county jail. All right. And right at 9 to do at 85%. So then the shooter, who is supposed to be the alleged trigger man, gets an automatic plea for 15.
Yes, he got 15 years to serve. But here's the deal with him.
Wow.
He turned to me, which he did not have to do. This was after his sentence. He didn't have to say anything.
He reached out to you.
Yeah, he didn't have to say anything to me.
Okay.
He turned in the courtroom to me.
Okay.
And he said, Miss Marshall, Lexi was just like family to me. And if I had known that was what they were going to do, I would not have given them my gun. That's what he said. So that tells me, and I believe him. I believe him because he did not have to say that to me. So that says to me that he wasn't the one that
He wasn't the real shooter. And most likely it was the female. I mean, just me hypothetically thinking.
I think it was somebody else, but I don't think it was him.
Wow.
And so, and you know, like I've said earlier, during this whole process, these boys were the same age as my son.
Wow. And
so, I always wondered what it was like for that mother on the other side, because when you're given a plea, you're told to take a plea. Take a plea, because if you go to trial, you're more than likely gonna get 45 years. So if you're thinking, if they're telling you that, but they're telling the family, we're offering a plea for 15 years, because if they go to trial, they're gonna walk. So nobody is getting an opportunity for the justice system to work.
To really work.
No.
Right.
Because it's about the W.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's about hurrying up and rushing it through the system.
Every time a plea deal is accepted, that's a W.
Yeah,
that's a win.
That's money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the case. The county don't have to try the case. You don't have to get no jury. That's money, more money in the slush fund, as I would call it, for the DA. And at the end of the year, the fiscal year, they keep all that money for themselves. All right. But when you got to try people and have trials and pay jurors and all that, you work in the system, but the system needs to be worked.
Yes.
Because currently the system is broken.
No. And so the second plea was in Judge Green's case. Tommy Green's court.
This is the 15 years.
Yes. This is the alleged shooter. This is his. So it was in Tommy Green's court. I was given the opportunity to go before Judge Green, just like I was for Faye Peterson. And I even told Judge Green, you have the ability
To reject
this. And she told me that ultimately God is the one that's going to give justice, and he'll have...
what we need a judge for? If God is going to give all the justice, then she need to give up her judge seat.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
my God.
So she said he'll be a felon when he gets out. And so, as if that was,
what judge tells a grieving mother, oh, God is going to handle the justice? What? And people, y'all heard it tonight. Tommy Green has long been a cancer. I'm just going to say it. And I got to get it in now. Tommy Green has long been a cancer to the judicial system of Hinds County. And now I don't know if it's because of the invested interest that her brother or brother-in-law, whoever has, and ankle monitors and all of that, but it's a proven track record that she has. Oh man, I went up one time. Well, you gotta tell me I missed my clock.
Go ahead, keep going.
She's long been a cancer to this community. And it's time, and in situations like this, this is why we have to have these type of conversations. And it's almost like they continue to push the victims to the back. Push the victims to the back. Don't want you to tell your story. Don't care about how you feel. You lost a child. And if you mean to tell me that my impact statement and my concerns about me as a parent losing my child does not have you as a judge to have some type of empathy and sympathy, then you don't need to be a judge. What reason are you there to judge if everything you comes up is a plea deal, the state presents a plea deal and you say, oh, okay. It's just business as usual.
Nobody gets an opportunity. That's the reason why I said we have a criminal legal system, is because nobody has an opportunity for the criminal justice system to play its role. If it was my son, I would not want my son to plead guilty to something that he did not do. And but if he did it, I would want him to plead guilty to something that he did. So these boys, whether they did it or not, they're going before the judge and saying, I plead guilty. But that is because of the deal that they've been given and what they've been told. And so if it was my son, I would want him to say if he did it or not. And if he didn't do it, I would not want him to plead for 15 years for something that he did not do.
Right. And then the state's playing the devil's advocate. Because the state's telling you, well, if we don't take a plea, we might not win. And then the state's telling the defendant, if you don't take this plea, I'm going to slam you. So the state is playing devil's advocate. They're telling you one story, telling the defendant the other story. This is what I do know. Every right is lost during a plea deal, okay? And the average criminal that's sitting in there on a murder or aggravated assault, and most of these guys that's doing this stuff, they know the system. All right? And so this is what they're saying. Come at me with 10, I can do the 10. I'm serious. This is how they think. Well, this is the talk in the jail cell. Man, if they offer me 10, I'm gonna take that 10 and run. I know I'm guilty. I know I ought to be having a life sentence, but I'm not gonna do anything until I'm not gonna offer no information in the case. I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna compromise. And so these defendants are really more craftier than the prosecution, because they understand that the prosecution does not want to go to trial. These sorry assistant DAs cannot try cases. Police officers don't do strong investigations. They don't present the proper information to take a case to trial. So it's not even about trial. It's not even about trial. It's about pleading. All right, because that's more money for the slush fund. All right, and what they're doing now, these criminals are saying, okay, I'm facing a life, 20 to 25 to life. But if you come at me with 10, especially if I'm 20 or 19, I'm going to take that 10 running because I still got life. I can possibly go lay down for 7 or 8 years and I'll be right back out here at 35 or 32, you know? And then, you know, they're taking the pleas in there, and the DA is not thinking, nor is the judge thinking about you.
Yes, because everybody is passing the book. No detective has ever asked me one question in 3 years.
Wait a minute, Ms. Marshall.
I have never been.
You've never talked to the detective?
Absolutely not.
Nobody from JPD has consulted or talked to you, gathered no information, anything?
No. And none of my family members.
Are you serious?
So, because during number 2, I expressed to them that I felt like that I was being railroaded, and if it was one of their children, they would not want to accept the same pleas that they were presenting. And of course, they're saying that they don't have. Well, I forgot to say they lost the gun one time. The crime lab lost the gun.
Wait a minute. The crime lab lost the gun.
Yes. The crime lab lost the gun once, and then there was a delay, and we did number 2. And so they were saying that they didn't have the detectives did not do their job. They did not interview people, which I know that they did not. And
no witnesses.
No witnesses. And Kevin actually, I called his name, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
The second one actually said that there was someone else. But I don't know those details. But I don't think that they did the job that they should have done in order to make sure that all of the bases was covered in order to make sure that
they had a strong case.
Yes, a strong case, and the fact that the people that were not responsible should not have been in jail.
So it's possible that somebody innocent
It's possible.
Is in jail accused of committing this crime with your daughter.
Yes.
With all of that, all of your all of the anger, I'm sure you, and I hate to use this word, but I know people say they've experienced it. I don't know, but I just hate it. But I'm sure you experienced some type of depression or something during this. But in all of that, you birthed something.
Yes.
Grant Me Justice.
Yes,
Tell us about Grant Me Justice.
Grant Me Justice really is twofold. Number one, I'm writing a book, and the book is called Grant Me Justice, and it's about me as a mother. It's me about my child, and the whole process of the judicial system. And then there's Grant Me Justice, the organization, and that is really for mothers that have lost their children to violence. I know what that was. For me, it was like going into the system as a virgin and being raped over and over and over again. And I know other mothers that are experiencing the same thing. And so Grant Me Justice is an organization that's geared toward telling the story, number one, because nobody knows my baby. And so to most people, she's just a name if they know her name. Or a number. And so it tells the story of who my baby is to me. Her likes, her dislikes, some of her goals, what her favorite color was, what my desire was for her life. And it gives other mothers the opportunity to tell that story too, from the mother's perspective.
From a mother's perspective.
The second part of it is resources. Number one is counseling, because we feel like that there are some parents whose kids were killed violently, and they need counseling. I mean, they need somebody that they can go to and talk to. So we've joined with some counseling agencies to help walk through that process if that's something that a mother or family desires. The third thing is we are raising money because I want to be able to do things financially for these families. For a mother, if it's just a spa day, or if it's just sending them off on a trip, sending her off on a trip.
That's right.
So those are the types of things. And the other part is getting someone to help walk through the legal system. We don't know it, but attorneys do know it. And so we're partnering with attorneys to help us walk through the system. I did not know that I could lawyer up. If I had known that from the beginning, I would have lawyered up. And so a lot of us don't know that we can lawyer up.
The victim.
Right.
The victim can lawyer up. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Tell that part, because a lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know you can lawyer up. And you need to lawyer up.
Right.
Because
especially if your child is not just in your child's case, but if your child is killed at a gas station, a store, a business, a place that should have had security. You need a lawyer.
You need a lawyer up.
Yeah.
And if you desire true justice, in light of the judicial system and what it is, you need to lawyer up. You need somebody to explain to you what your rights are.
Thank you,
and to fight on your behalf, because the state of Mississippi is not fighting for you.
Let me ask you this: How damaging it is to you as a strong black woman to see black women on the bench, to have a black DA, your child be murdered by a black perpetrator, and then to have a system that is predominantly black deny you justice? How does that feel?
Well, I think whenever there's a murder in our community, we all lose. Regardless of what side of the table we're on, I think we all lose. The whole community lose, because not only have I lost my child, but there are 2 young men and a young woman that are behind bars for that murder. And there are children that are involved,
left in the wake, right.
And I'm even left to raise my grandbaby. And so I think we all lose whenever there's a murder in our community. For me, in regards to the judicial system, I think that it is necessary for us to do the right thing. If we keep allowing people that are guilty are being released and back on the streets, I mean, it's going to be a repeat. It's just going to be a repeat. And I think that I think we as a people need to be mindful of when we go to vote, and not just to vote because you are a black person. We need to make sure, because you don't know that this is going to matter until you have to go through the criminal justice system, and you say, "Oh, that's Faye Peterson. That's who I voted for." So I think it's imperative that we know who these people are that we're putting on the local levels of our judicial system. We need to know who these people are. It's very important.
That's very important.
And we need to have credible people in that office. And now I've been told by several people as I've gone through this process that the DA's office is a mess. But I think that's been said for a long time, that it's a mess. It's time for it not to be a mess anymore.
Put your headphones on. We got a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. You on there?
A long-time listener, first-time caller, Ms. Marshall, my condolences. I would like Ms. Marshall to address what role do the juries in Hinds County play a part of the criminal justice system? I will hang up and listen. Thank you.
What? Can you say that again now? He says, what role do the jurors of Hinds County play in the judicial system? I guess he was ready to like either jurors are not showing up for jury duty. Is this one of the reasons why DA office is trying to get plea deals on everybody because they can't try a case because jurors won't show up? I mean, what in that judicial system, what all did you see that was broken and that was wrong?
From my perspective, I didn't see it as jurors not showing up. I saw it as people being given the opportunity to plea out. And that was, to me, I would have preferred it to go through trial. If it had gone through the trial and they had been tried by their peers, and then their peers have decided that they're not guilty, I would have been good. I would have been fine with that.
Right.
I would have been, if they had walked that day, I would have been fine with that.
Right.
Because I feel like they have the right to be tried by their peers. And not given the opportunity to plea out. And like I said from the very beginning, if number one that pled out, she said she was going to plead based, and part of her plea was to testify against the other two.
Meaning they were going to trial.
They were going to trial.
That didn't ever materialize.
That didn't materialize. So to me, her plea was null and void because part of her plea
was to testify. Right.
And so
so they literally let her off the hook for testifying, and then pacified the other two with plea deals. Now, we didn't get to, and I think we got ahead of ourselves, and we're going to go right on through the break. We didn't get to suspect number 3.
Yes.
Okay, so suspect number 3, how did that trial go?
Suspect number 3 was his conviction was downgraded to his plea was downgraded to conspiracy. And they offered him 5 years.
What?
Because they said that the witnesses could not determine whether or not he was on the scene and what car he was in.
Wait a minute.
So they gave him 5 years to serve.
So suspect number 3 that was originally charged with murder.
Second degree murder.
Was downgraded down to conspiracy. Conspiring to commit a crime. Okay, so if I conspire, rather I was there or not, I conspired. I knew a crime was finna take place. Sometimes conspiracy is even worse than the crime itself, because that means that you had full knowledge that something was about to happen. All right, and so if you got conspiracy, then you should also have second-degree murder. You see the connection I'm making here? If I conspired and then a crime happened, how do you take second-degree murder off the table and just give me conspiracy? If I conspired to commit murder, and I'm sure that's what he confessed to, right? Or pled to, right? So, conspiracy. I conspired. Okay, well, part 2, the murder took place. Well, if I conspired to commit, then there's the second degree right there. Matter of fact, should have got both. Should have got conspiracy, and all of them should have got conspiracy to commit as well as second degree murder. So he got 5 years.
5 years.
In front of what judge?
This was Faye Peterson.
So Faye had 2 of them. Tommy had 1.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was supposed to serve 5 years, and he was supposed to be given credit for the time that he had served. And this was in March of 2020.
So just last year?
But he was out by August.
Wait a minute now.
He was out by August.
So he did all his time in the county jail. So he's been that's another problem. So he was arrested in 2017. He's been sitting in the county jail 2018, 2019, Finally, they get him on the books.
And that's
in
the other part.
2020.
I mean, it's not speedy. They're supposed to have a speedy trial. It's
Oh
not
my
speedy.
God.
And so when you're going through these processes, you can't. You're grieving through this process, and you can't celebrate a child's life because you're reliving her death over and over and over again. So every time that you have a plea, every time that you have a change, any part of the process, you're reliving it over and over and over again, and you don't get an opportunity to celebrate a child's life until after all of this is over with. And it's a constant. It's a constant.
So in all of that, Grant Me Justice was birthed.
Mm-hmm.
You told us all of the resources that you're doing. Tell us right now, what is Grant Me Justice doing? What are you doing currently? What are you working on?
Well, right now we have interviewed several mothers, which is very exciting to me, that have lost their children to violence. Some of these mothers that we've interviewed, no one has been arrested. Some people have lost children 3 years ago, and no arrests have been made. And so Grant Me Justice desire is to get the word out, to tell these stories, because we feel like that there is power in numbers. And if I can get enough mothers together, then we can go before the legislature. We can do some things.
That's important.
As a unified group. And so I'm trying to get as many stories told on film as I can, and I want to be able to go before the legislature and give our case. You know, something has to be done.
Yeah.
Now let me just say this: Judge Green said that she had 600 cases on her books. This was in 2018, I believe. No, 2019.
Wow.
So she, just one court has 600 cases. And there's no way, if she has a case every day, she would not be able to go through all of those cases. So you're going to have where they're going to, reschedule those cases, and they're just going to keep bogging down the system. And that's the reason why we can't get speedy trials. I mean, these people...
And they sought to send some special judges in to help with the Hinds County case overload. And I'm just me. And I'm saying this, and nothing towards you or any of the experience. This is just me personally. I think it's a sad indictment on this city that is predominantly African American. All of the top seats are held by African American people. And we cry, Miss Marshall, we cry, we pout, we protest, we march. Oh, give us a chance, give us a chance. Systematic racism, this and that. And then when we get the chance to be and do the right thing, we fail. And then we want to be rewarded for the failure. And we don't want anybody to criticize or to expose our failure or to challenge us at the failure. For some reason, we think because we're black, we're a judge, we're a lawyer, or something, that we have some type of community pass to not do the job. And that's not the case. That's not the case. You should not have had to find out the wrong way on how to help your child in the system. Your child was murdered. A crime was committed. The system should have been there to back you, to support you, to just say, Judge Peterson, Judge Green should have, listen, I hear you. They have children. Can you imagine if it would have been one of their children? Can you imagine the political loops and all that would have went through if Faye's son would have got killed or Tommy Green's grandchild would have got killed? Can you imagine the sentence that person would have got because of the clicks?
I think that is very, very important for elected officials to hear and listen to the victim. There is so much talk about criminal justice reform, and I get that. I know that there are a lot of people that are incarcerated that are not guilty. I get all of that. But as a victim, I think it's important for at least to be heard, and for us to see what would make this right. Okay, so for me, making it right would be to allow these young men to go through the process of the judicial system. That would have made it right with me. For another mother, it may be, I just want him to apologize. I just want him to just say what he did. You know, you just don't know what that looks like, but I think it's important for us to be able to be heard, just to be able to be heard, and to know that what we say matters. Listen to me. I've lost my child. Don't make me feel like that I'm doing something wrong because I'm demanding.
I'm advocating for my child.
For my child. That's all I want to do is just advocate for my child. And my child's life matters. Her life matters too.
That's right.
It's not a cop that has killed her, but her life matters too.
Right.
And that's what I want people to know.
Why do you think that we are so desensitized to black on black crime, but if a white police officer kill a black person, we ready to riot? I mean, everybody comes to the rescue. The media, the stars, the cameras get to rolling. But when African American people die at the hands of African American people, and I said this last night on my show, you 7 out of 10% chance to be a victim of gun violence at the current rate in this city. And a rock's throw across fortification, white people live in harmony. All right? You don't hear outcry from the church. You don't hear outcry from the community. You don't hear outcry from law enforcement. You don't hear outcry from state legislators. We have more black state legislators than any other region around here. Then what crime bill are they up there proposing? When you see crimes happening to African American people on a daily basis, how can you sit up in the House of Representatives or anywhere else talking about you doing your job if you're not writing legislation for people like yourself?
Yeah. I think, and this is not going to be popular, I know, but I've said and I've always said, in order for our lives to matter to other people, they have to matter to us. They absolutely have to matter to us. And as a black community, we have to realize that until we take our own lives seriously, our own little black boys seriously, and that's what I say, we all lose. Whenever there's a murder that's committed, every last one of us lose. And we have to, our life has to matter to us. It doesn't matter to me if it's a black person or a white person behind the gun. It's still a bullet that killed my baby, you know, that I'll never see again. And I take that seriously. And I think unless we as a community take that seriously, man, why are we chasing after the other narrative? We can't keep chasing after the other narrative.
Wow. And that other narrative, that Black Lives Matter narrative, I'll say it for you, it's a false narrative. It's almost like hip hop, saying hip hop is a culture. It's not a culture, it's a subculture, you know. And that's what I think. I think we as a people have really lost what culture really is. And our culture should be, I'm protecting you. You're a sister. You're a black woman. My job is to protect you. My job ain't to slay you. My job is not to kill you or shoot you 21 times with an AK-47 or AR-15. Now you got young black men shooting young black girls brutally. I'm talking about brutal. I mean, you ain't even got no business, let alone hitting on a woman. You got African American young boys that feel like it's okay, are bragging about killing a female. What's wrong?
I think, you know, as I was going through this process, and I watched those young men, I felt like they were my children, kind of, you know. Although I was in there advocating for my daughter, I also wanted to advocate for them too, because I felt like they deserved their justice too. And I didn't feel like the process worked for them. And for the other mother on the other side, I was able to embrace defendant number 3's mom, because she was sitting next to me. And just to tell her that it's going to be okay, because we're all in this together. None of us asked to be here. We're just thrust into
Yeah, collateral damage.
Yeah, we just thrust into this
right,
thing.
Right.
None of us asked to be here. And so we have to be able to, as a community, know that we all hurt. Whenever there's a murder, we all hurt. And my desire is to one day to be able to have a conversation with every last one of those defendants, because when they're behind bars, I've lost too. I've still lost.
Well, listen, we want you to come back. I do. All right, I want some of the other ladies that you have interviewed, I want y'all to come on in this studio. We're going to get that message out. We're going to push that message out in this community. You have a story. Each one of you, each family has a story. Each family deals with it different. But at the end of the day, we all have to come to a table and find a way where we don't have to keep having these stories. I don't want to keep going to balloon releases. I don't want to keep saying rest in peace on my timeline. I don't want to keep saying I'm praying for your family, my condolences. I want to do something different. But it seems like every day that's what we're saying in this community. So grant me justice. We're behind you. This platform will support you and all of the women that and families that are part of your organization, are coming through your organization. Anything that we can do here at Cipher Voice, as well as We Believe Digital Podcast Studio, let us know. Closing remarks on you.
Just love. I mean, we just got to love one another and do better. If you don't mind, I would like to give my contact information.
Go ahead. You got about 10 seconds.
Okay, 601-540-2817. We all lose whenever there's a murder in our city. We all lose, every last one of us.
There it is, y'all. Thanks for tuning in, man, to the We Believe Digital Podcast, Cipher Voice, man, Miss Felecia Marshall, and Grant Me Justice. We out here.
Hey family, this is Pastor J.R.D. Stuckey
and Pastor Jonathan T. Phillips Jr.
And together we are the hosts of The Doors of the Church Are Open right here on WeBelieveDigital.com.
And you can meet us, greet us, and be a part of this platform, this conversation every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. We're ready to talk about those things that's going on in our churches, around our churches, what we believe, what we feel, those taboo conversations that people really, Pastor, just don't want to deal with.
So every Thursday right here at 6:30, join us where we're going to talk about what's going on with the doors of the church are open.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.